Hello, it's Scott Manley here with part 4 of the Interstellar quest, or something like that. This is going to be my first unmanned launch, having previously developed the technology that makes this space probe work. Okay, on the launch pad, we have a standard rocket, 2 stages. The upper stage has a fairing around it from KW Fairings. Inside, we have communications hardware and a probe body. And we are well away here. Not going up as fast as we have in previous missions because we do not have a bunch of boosters strapped around it. But that's not a problem because we still have enough thrust to actually get ourselves into orbit. Also note we have the alarm clock set up. Oh wait, we're starting to wobble. What's going on here? Wobble, wobble, wobble. I'm not sure what's causing this, but I've got ASAS on, and whoa, this thing does not want to respond particularly well. I need to kind of hold it straight, and every way I move it, it just wants to wobble back. This is, wow. This is like balancing something on its head. Oh, come on, stay pointing that way. I don't know, this is more waggling, whereas the other one is wobbling. I'm sure there's technical description, technical jargon to describe these oscillation modes. One's a roll oscillation, and the other one seems to be an oscillation around the standard, the preferred orientation. Well, regardless, I think we're getting high enough that the wobble is starting to dampen down a little. It's probably because I have these new fancy steerable wings, and they're making the thing wobble like something really crazy because they cut into the air more efficiently. I love the way also that we have all these cities now appearing right next to the space center, even though we can't see them during the day. And almost up to altitude as well. Now, this is going pretty well. Okay, so I'm stopping this kind of early, and the reason is we want to make sure that we perform our orbital insertion burn while the space center is still above the horizon. And okay, we are getting close to our insertion point. 1 minute away, going to be a 47-second burn. Actually, it's not an orbital insertion. It's an insertion and then a burn up to geostationary or Kerbal stationary altitude. Kerbal stationary altitude is something like 2,868.75 kilometers above Kerbin's surface. Obviously, the rest of the spacecraft will not be going that far. It will be on a suborbital trajectory to be destroyed, folding out the solar panels so that we don't forget them. They will not do much use on the dark side of the planet, but I'm sure they will have some effect once we come into the light. And it would be a shame if we ran out of power before we got there. You can't really make it out, but there is like a little dipole antenna on the back that will work there, as you can just see it. That's got a 500 kilometer range, I think. You don't need to turn it on and off. And then on the side, we have 2 of the Communitron dishes. Those will give me long-range communications, more or less throughout the Kerbin system. We have to point those at their target, though. I'm not sure if 2 is a good number. I've heard at least 2 is a good number, but I'm starting to think now that I should maybe have like 10. Oh yeah, looks like we're getting kind of close to the horizon. I think I'm going to cut power before I finish this burn so I don't end up with the engines stuck on. Okay, and we're just going to cruise this thing around. The red indicator light in the top left says we have no connection. So there are no pictures being sent back of this gorgeous Kerbal globe sitting below us. Nevertheless, we will no doubt be collecting some sort of information in our logs. I don't know really. What do probes dream of when they sleep? Do probes dream of electric sheep or something like that? Okay, so you can see the little red spot in the globe. That is where the Kerbal Space Center is, and we need to get that. We need to get above the horizon relative to that. So we could go around several times and wait for the thing to line up with the perihelion, or the periaps, or the perikey. But I don't think that's going to work. We'll just wait until it appears, and once it appears, we will raise our apoaps further until it's up to 2868.75, and then hopefully, because we're now moving slowly, hopefully the whole thing will just turn with us and we'll be able to perform the maneuver at the same node. Oh, yeah, and we have light. Look, you can actually now see this spacecraft. Let's deploy this. Yeah, we want to make sure we actually deploy this before we go up to altitude. So we've deployed it and we point it at mission control. The antenna doesn't really work unless you point it at something. It's very high gain. You can point it at the globe and things like that, but we're just going to point it at mission control. Okay. 1900, 2000, 21, 21, 34, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, burning, 7, 28, 28, 40, 50, 60, 64, 67. That's close enough. Okay, 68. Okay, that's close enough. Right. So now let ourselves cruise up to altitude and finally circularize our orbit to become part of the Kerbal stationary, or become the first Kerbal stationary communication satellite. Of course, I should point out that Kerbal stationary makes absolutely no sense in KSP. Okay, so we got our maneuver node. It's probably 28, 24, 44. We need a little more on that. Or circularize them just a bit. Okay, 427. So let's see if I'm right. If I'm right, then this planet should rotate sufficiently quickly that I remain above the horizon for long enough. There, look, yeah, we're going further and further above the horizon, so we should now be visible to the Kerbal Space Center and therefore be able to carry out our mission. Otherwise, we'd have to wait until this thing was in exactly the right place, and I'm not prepared. I'm not really going for a perfectly laid out geostationary or Kerbal stationary satellite formation. I just want to have them, well, you know, more or less in the right place. And ready to burn. Are you ready to burn? That's a song, I think. Never mind. Clearly a song that I heard over this radio thing. Where? Oh, yeah. Okay, I was wondering where that maneuver node was there, but this is actually the enhanced nav ball. When the maneuver node is off the side, it produces like a ghosted out marker that you can use to actually find it when it's off the side, which is very, very helpful. There we go. And we're ready to burn. I hope I have enough fuel in this thing. I haven't actually tested this rocket. Would be rather embarrassing if I didn't actually make it to Kerbal stationary orbit. Not unknown for spacecraft to fail to reach geostationary orbit. It's quite common, apparently. It's a very large amount of delta V you have to throw in relative to other low Earth orbit satellites. And then you have to have maneuvering thrusters when you're still up there. Okay, that's us. Just tweak this a little, and I will probably spend forever adjusting this. Okay, satellite number 2, and this time we are launching in the day so you can actually appreciate how amazing this spacecraft actually looks. This is not one of your... It's not an ugly spacecraft by any means, because, you know, in what do you call it? In Ferrum Aerospace, it's very important to have a nice nose cone on there. It does make a difference, and you will find your spacecraft... Well, oh god, I was going to say you'd find them hard to control, but apparently whatever I do, it's hard to control. We have that roll oscillation going on, and we have this oscillation around the forward direction going on. This is not good. Not good at all. Well, never mind. Yeah, I think even if I just let it go and let it kind of fixate on the position it wants to go, we'd probably get into orbit just fine. That might actually be the easiest way to do it. That wobble is probably fine, but it really annoys me. Something about it. It's not even like there's a passenger on there. It's just me watching it like oscillate around like that. It shouldn't be doing that. I'm wondering if this is like RemoteTech doing something, because it seems to me that it's switching back and forth in control. And I guess RemoteTech, you know, can decide that it doesn't see you and turn off ASAS and stuff like that. Never mind. Like, so you can see the yellow path is to the satellite that we launched earlier. So hopefully, well, what'll happen if I go below the horizon now? I can use that other satellite as a relay. So I should probably just be able to go into a straight orbit there. There we go. Look at that. Nice to see the actual deployment this time. It looks far prettier. 64 kilometers. Okay, so this is definitely a flatter trajectory than I would otherwise like. But that's good. We'll just deploy these. Deploy, activate. Okay, one of these will point at mission control just in case we need it, and the other will point at the satellite. Where's active vessel? No, that's not what I mean. Oh, you can tell it to set it to automatically point at the active vessel. I'm going to point it at ComSat 1. That makes total sense now. I shall have to exploit this new knowledge for fun and profit. Okay, so set up this orbit here, and well, we just got to wait. Let's deploy the satellite, the solar panels, and that's going to work extra nice. Look at that, cruising into the sky. We've got our orbit. In fact, I think I'm just going to take this all the way up to the geostationary transfer orbit. We shouldn't need to worry so much about... I don't know what the phase will actually be. If the phase is really off, I'll just... I'll make some adjustments, but I don't think we need to worry too much about getting an exact 120 degree separation. 247. Yeah, the illusion here is somewhat subtle. Okay. So we are going towards our apoaps. We're cruising, we're gaining power. Everything should be good. All systems are go, all systems are nominal. The Kerbal Space Center is getting very low on the horizon, and I suspect we will be losing contact with it very soon, but hopefully the satellite will route connections through it. In fact, well, we got 1 minute to go. 1 minute 23, 55, 44. Oh, right, okay, we lost connections. So, okay, why we don't have a connection on this? I guess we need to tell this satellite to like point its dish at me, right? Switch to it. Okay, quick. We are in a suborbital trajectory. We do not have time to waste. You must point your satellite dish at my spacecraft and make sure it does not crash. Which is convenient named they're both named ComSat 1. I should really change the name, shouldn't I? When I say ComSat 1, yes, that's it. Pointed at him. Switch to this target. And... nothing! Great. I have green lights on the board. We have control. We have throttle control, but we do not have the engine activating. Engine shutdown, restart. Come on. Give me some power here. Give me some love. No. Why aren't you firing? Is this a software? This is a software glitch. This is totally a software glitch. What else can I do? We could try deploying this. Deploy this, point at mission control. Can we? Yeah, okay, let's do. So we're able to activate and deactivate things, but our throttle's not working. I'm definitely saying software glitch. Oh dear, we're going to see it in the news tomorrow that the second spacecraft from the Kerbal Science Communications Network failed due to a software glitch in RemoteTech, I think. Look, I have the connection, but I have no feedback at all, and now I am descending towards the planet Kerbal. This is not going to be a good this is not going to be a good end to this mission, unfortunately. Well, not sure what else to do. I'm sure the dipole is there. Doesn't work. Yeah, mission control, not good. Yeah. I don't know. Yes, can't switch vessels. Try switching. Nope. I'm kind of hoping that there will be some way to remedy this glitch. Try and reload. I save and reload. Still nothing. Save and reload. Still going to descend. Well, farewell, fuel tank. You did well, but I want to get as far away from a giant tank of highly volatile rocket fuel as possible before I descend into an atmosphere which is going to set me on fire. I'm sorry. It was nice knowing you, but unfortunately, your time is done. You cannot help me because you're not working. Something in your software is preventing you from saving me. Maybe you've been hacked by some aliens because this satellite was going to tip the balance away from their favor or something like that. Maybe this satellite was going to solve the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, and the stars were going to start going out. Who knows? Well, you can gonna carry your secrets to the grave, to a watery demise after fiery descent through the skies. Farewell. Okay, well, Comsat number 2 this time. Hopefully, we will actually work. Hopefully, we won't have this trouble. So I'm gonna fly this manually again, and once again, we're getting to these oscillations. Fine controls now enabled because I figured that would actually give me a little more, fine control. I figured it would reduce the oscillation somewhat. I'm flattening out rather faster than I'd like, so I'm trying to bring the nose up. Bring the nose up. Bring the nose. Oh! Whoa! Whoa! No! What the deuce? You should be so aerodynamically stable. Look at those wings at the back. Come on. What laws of aerodynamics are you following? Wait, this is not good. You're supposed to be a rocket with fins. Ah, dear. Well, I guess that's the second of these launchers that have been lost. A good thing these are not manned, huh? They're not even have science equipment on them. They're just supposed to be there to carry the communications. Okay, got some control back. However, I suspect that I am not going to be able to make my orbit. Maybe I can make it back to base. I'm going to try turning it towards the land. Maybe if I can get over towards the land, we can, get some... Okay, so I'm running this in time acceleration now. So I'm trying to bring this down so I can land it softly, because you know what? Never give up, right? Never give up on these things. Let it, bringing it down is an important thing. Never say die. Maybe we can recover something from this mission. So I'm bringing it down very gently towards the water. The idea is I was going to soft land it. We have plenty of fuel in this thing. We have enough fuel to get us into geostationary orbit, so everything should work. Except, okay, no thrust anyway. Yeah, I lost comms because I went just below the horizon. See that? See it there, nicely marked there with the flags, just below the horizon. Okay, launch number 4 of my 3 launch system. This is not quite great. I don't care. I'm just going to trust to the SAS because you know what? It may wobble, it may annoy the hell out of me, but it's not breaking anything, it's just looking dumb. Okay, so once again, proceed towards Kerbal stationary orbit. As I was saying earlier, Kerbal stationary orbit, really kind of pointless. Because the reason why geostationary orbit is really cool on Earth is because it leaves the spacecraft more or less in the same part of the sky. And that is great if you want to talk to it with a satellite dish that sits still and doesn't turn. But you know what? All the satellite dishes in Kerbal Space Program, they can all turn, and they can turn automatically. They can track anything because otherwise it would make things really complicated. But on planet Earth, we have these cheap satellite receiver dishes that you want to bolt onto the side of a building, point, and then let it do its business. And I am going in a really steep launch trajectory. I'm not sure. I guess I should flatten it out a little. But even then, no, it's now wobbling. Not good. Come on, get down towards that horizon, sir. Get down towards... There we go. That's the horizon. Don't lose control, though. That's where you want to point. Yes, I'm turning on ASAS. So I'm getting up to altitude rather faster than I'd like. But, well, you know what? I'm wondering... I may even just forget about going straight into to have an apoapse burn. I think I might just burn straight for geostationary orbit this time, because now I have a comms satellite up there. And incidentally, I've already gone in, and you haven't seen this here because I've cut it out, but I've already pointed these things to the dishes towards the satellites. The satellite in orbit is going to make sure it points its dishes at me, and everyone's going to be happy, hopefully. Okay, 64, 65. Yeah, we're just going to take this straight up to until our apoapse is 2468.75. There, you see, now we've gone far enough. Now, I guess now we've deployed the dish. You can see there's 2 possible communication routes, and that means that if one of them fails, the other one is still exists, and we can actually manage to make our comms traffic. Now, you can also use this to transmit science with RemoteTech. It's also possible to set up like command stations that are completely cut off from Kerbin. But if you crew them with, like, I think it's 6 Kerbals, you can have them control any spacecraft. If there's some reason why you can't have, maybe you're operating in some place where it's almost impossible to get a signal, or the cost of the logistics of putting a comm satellite are just too much for you to be bothered with. In that case, you can use this remote thingy, the remote command system. There we go. Keep burning towards the sky. I guess because I'm pointing slightly below. Notice I'm pointing slightly below the prograde marker. That's also raising my periapse just a little. Now, if I was really aggressive, I could probably raise my periapse up sufficiently so that I wouldn't even have to do a burn out at this distance to make sure I didn't return to the atmosphere. I'm not being that aggressive. That kind of wastes fuel, and I guess I ended up dumping this a little early. 2860, that's pretty close. I'm going to use that. And yeah, we're still inside of the Kerbal Space Center as well, but what'll happen as we go around here? Nice, look, I love the triangles. It's like a spirograph or something. Oh, look, actually, we're staying in contact with the Kerbal Space Center. That perhaps is a better launch solution. Now I've tried it by accident. I should probably just use that as my launch solution in the future instead of this faffing around with multiple communication paths. Unfortunately, it did put me very close to the target, so we'll not do a complete insertion. I just did a partial, so that the loop kind of put us, I don't know, I guess about 120 degrees away, but I'm totally guessing. If I'd actually brought out my calculator, I could have figured out the correct number, but as long as they're not right on top of each other, we should be fine. Number 3, or launch number 5, satellite number 3. This one will join its brethren in space, and we will just watch the whole thing in 4 times normal speed, because quite frankly, you don't need to see the whole thing again. Yes, so now we have our communications network. This will cover... this will actually talk to anything in Kerbin vicinity. These things can't really talk beyond Kerbin's orbit. They don't really have the range. We will have other objects which will include large deep space antenna. We'll deploy those in some sort of orbit, and we'll make sure that they can always talk to each other and everything. But that is RemoteTech in action. It will form an integral part of the future exploration of the space, and hopefully help us get all the way to interstellar technology. Getting ourselves into orbit. And yeah, again, we're rather close here, so we're going to make some adjustments to make sure that we don't end up exactly on top of each other. We want to be far enough apart, so I'm just going to let this go around one more time. There you see, and we're coming up, and actually I think it's coming up a little further behind than what I want, so at this point I make a guesstimated correction, right? I thrust downwards and sideways to circularize my orbit without raising my periapse. That's what I'm trying to do here by burning radially and then prograde direction. And the idea is that will stop me lagging behind as much as I would if I just let that go. And again, totally guesstimated this whole thing. The positions will not be particularly accurate. Once I get into orbit, I will tweak the semi-major axis by adjusting things very, very gently with that rocket. I don't care if the eccentricity is zero. I just want the semi-major axis to be as exact as possible. And that's us there. The last ComSat is deployed. We have a new era of Kerbal communications, and I will see you in episode 5. I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.